Good evening everybody, welcome to JAIIB CAIIB English Medium channel. I hope that all of you are doing fine. Today in this particular video, we will be talking about the Indian economy and Indian financial system. This subject is considered to be the toughest one. Reasons are two. First, it is the first subject for which the exam will be conducted. So, the uncertainty, all those things which are lined up by the IIBF, they will come true on that particular day, that first examination day. Only after you are sitting in the examination hall, you will come to know that whether in this entire exam cycle IIBF will have some uncertainties, some surprises for you or not. So that anxiety makes it tough. Secondly, the type of questions which are being asked by the IIBF. So in this particular session, or for that matter in every session of Hero to Superhero series, we are trying to decipher that how IIBF can ask the questions to you and how you must approach all such questions. Fine. So without any further delay, let's start our session. But before that, I want everybody to participate in this particular session. You must reply with the correct answer, because only then we'll come to know that whether our preparation is in the right direction or not. So today is the class 11th for the English medium channel. If you have not seen the last 10 classes, it is highly recommended once this session is over, go and visit those particular sessions as well, because only then you will be able to reap the maximum benefit out of this particular series. Okay. So first question in front of you, it pertains to the economic growth and economic development, which states that with reference to the concept of economic growth and economic development, select the correct statements or statement from the following options. So again, a conceptual question to start off with, but you have to be very sure in the concepts. If you are having conceptual clarity, then this question is a very easy one, I would say. Otherwise it is tricky. Quickly try to answer this question. So let's analyze one by one the statements of this particular question. The statement first states that economic development comes before the economic growth. So these concepts of economic growth, economic development, normally when we read or we try to read on our own, we believe that it is more or less the same concept, the development as well as growth. But they are there is a huge difference when we talk about these two topics or these two subjects altogether. We have in economics two subjects, developmental economics as a subject, a separate subject also. So these growth and development concepts, they might sound familiar to you, but if you do not know the exact meaning of growth when it comes with the economic aspect, economies aspect, then you might get confused, and these options are more than enough to make us confused in any manner. So economic development comes before the economic growth. If you do not know the concept, how you will be able to answer this question? Second statement, economic growth brings both quantitative as well as qualitative changes in the economy. Economic development is the subset of the economic growth, or economic growth means the increase in production. All these statements, if you have not seen the concept of growth and development, you won't be able to answer it. Fine. So before moving on to the final answer, let's have a discussion. But before that, do let me know in the chat section that what is the correct answer as per your concepts. Fine. Now let's try to define in a better manner that how the growth and development happens. See, you have an economy. Fine. There is one economy. You can have the example of Indian economy also. In the economy, we have two aspects or the two pillars around which the economy will be defined in future as well as in the present. So first one will be the growth of the economy, that what all growth aspects are there in your economy. The second one will be the development. Fine. So development will be the second aspect. First of all, you must grow as an economy, then only development will happen. But which one of these is the broader concept that it is required to sustain an economy in the longer run? So definitely development is the broader aspect. Growth is essential to move towards development, yes, but once you achieve the economic development, then only you will be able to say that your country has become a developed nation. So growth, then development. Okay. Next important aspect, when I talk about the economic development, so it is a broader concept and economic growth will be just a part of it. Okay. Economic development is a broader concept and growth is just a part of it. Why I am saying this? Because economic growth talks about numbers, fine, it talks about the numbers which you decipher using the production level. Okay. So production level defines the numbers like your GDP, gross domestic product, fine. GDP is what? A number only which is based on the production level. Then you have the purchasing power parity, then per capita income. All these are what? These are numbers and they define your growth, the growth of your economy. On the other hand, when I talk about economic development, here the major portion, or you can say the majority of things, they revolve around the welfare aspect, fine, welfare. And what kind of welfare? The social welfare, fine. Now the social welfare, you can have the examples of your HDI, the Human Development Index, then you have the inequality measure, that is your Gini coefficient. So these are what? These are numbers, again some quantities involved. When we are talking about the index, Human Development Index, it is what? Again a number, but it defines what? It defines the quality of life as well. So social welfare is somewhere around the line linked with the HDI also. So HDI not only talks about the numbers, that is the quantity, but it also entails towards your quality, fine, quality of life. So quantity as well as quality is a feature, is a characteristic of your economic development, whereas economic growth only talks about the numbers. That is why it is having the quantitative aspect only. Okay. So I hope that this qualitative and quantitative, the difference is understandable now, fine, more clarity is there. Now what else do we need to understand when we study about the growth and development? See, when I talk about the UK, fine, United Kingdom, there in 1600s we never saw any kind of development, fine, any kind of development. The plague was there and number of diseases were there. So although they were having the wealth, but this wealth was not sufficient to sustain the population back then in 1600s. And this particular mismatch was addressed later on when they preferred to you can say preferred to assist their population in terms of quality of life. So quality of life, when they targeted this particular issue, then only development happened. But for that they required funds, fine, in the UK they required funds. So the funds were there thanks to your industrial revolution, which did what? It increased the production level, and the production level are directly studied under the head of GDP, fine. So gross domestic product was increased, the GDP growth was immense in the UK back in 1800s thanks to the drain of wealth from various countries, various colonies, and ultimately the GDP rose to a number which ultimately was sufficient to sustain the quality of life. So the step one will always be in an economy, the step 1 will always be to acquire certain numbers, certain good growth, that is the quantitative aspect, and after that you move towards the qualitative aspect. So first you will have the economic growth and then your development will happen, economic development. Okay. Now next question in your mind should be that, okay, we have the economic growth in an economy as well as we have the economic development also now. Then what? Once we achieve the developed nation status, then what? Then we should focus on the development only, or should we switch over to the economic growth aspect? So once your nation is a developed nation, then you switch again to the economic growth aspect, because social welfare is taken care of. Wealth you have to accumulate again. Okay. So economic growth will be targeted once the economic development, whatever numbers you had in your mind for your country, you have accomplished them. So first of all, growth will happen, then economic development will happen. Once you are a developed nation, you must focus on the economic growth aspect only. So India, when we talk about our country, whether we should focus right now on the growth aspect only or the economic development as well. So we must focus on both, because we require development right now, and the development will happen only when we have the economic growth. That is why whenever the news says that the GDP growth of our country is having good numbers, so it always reflects that we are moving towards the right direction, because we require that production level so that we will be able to curb the menace of inequality, curb the menace of the social inequality, the menace of poverty, the lack of healthcare in our country, and target the development part. Okay. So this is how you should read about the economic development and growth, and I hope that now after the discussion you will be able to solve this question. So the first statement says the economic development comes before the economic growth. So first development will happen, then growth will happen. Answer is no. First economic growth will happen, only then we will have the economic development. So economic growth is a precursor to the development. Then economic growth brings both quantitative and qualitative changes in the economy. So answer, do let me know whether the economic growth brings the quantitative as well as qualitative or not. So answer is no. Only it brings the quantitative growth. The GDP numbers are high, the per capita income is high, but we are not talking about the quality of life. Okay. Economic development is the subset of economic growth. Just now we have seen that economic development is the superset and economic growth lies somewhere inside the economic development. So within the economic development we will be defining the growth aspect. So economic development is the superset for your economic growth. Economic growth means the increase in production. Yes, the level of production will rise. We will say that a country is moving towards economic growth, and that's why in the news also, the newspapers, or for that matter in the social media also, you always see this term that the growth story of our country is moving in the right direction. Never you have seen that the development story of our country, no, because only when the numbers are high we will say that yes, GDP is rising, and we are talking about the economic growth, which is a quantitative measure, talks about the numbers. Okay, so the answer for this is option D. Fine. Here the difference is also mentioned in an elaborate manner, which we have discussed just now. So once you get the PDF of this particular session, you can read it from there, and the PDF you can have from the scanner which is here directly. This is the scanner from where you can access the PDF. This one, just scan this QR and you will get the PDF via the virtual library. Fine, you will be redirected to the virtual library if you scan this particular QR, and from there, from the virtual library, you can directly have the PDF of this session as well. Okay, now let's move on to the next question. The next question, it says that we are talking about the arbitrage and hedging. So these two terms, we often see these two terms, one second, we often see these two terms in discussion of the investments. Fine, whenever we talk about the investments, these two terms find their own mention, whether they are related to some investment model or all the investment models, or whether it is not even related to any of the investment model. Fine. So dash mostly depends upon the arbitrage and hedging variations across different parts of the world. What will be the right answer here? So the first option is FDI, then we have process of globalization, then foreign institutional investment or trade protectionist measures. So when I talk about arbitrage and hedging, what is arbitrage? You are buying at a lower amount and selling at a higher amount. That is the process of arbitrage. And when we talk about the practice of arbitrage in the global markets, then we say that you are buying at the low priced market, selling at the higher priced market. So what about hedging? Okay, arbitrage though, it is very simple. What about hedging? So supposingly you have one derivative, fine, and the prediction for the derivative instrument which you have procured from the security market, secondary market, it is that this derivative investment will be a loss case. Fine, you will be losing the money if you retain this derivative in future. So the you can say buyers of this derivative, they will do what? Either they suffer loss, right? That is the first and obvious thing, or secondly they can acquire certain alternate derivatives which will be having some profitable sum in the future. So profitable, you are investing in some profitable sums so that the loss which will occur for sure in the future will be compensated for. So you are trying to create a hedge, fine. Hedge means some obstacle for the loss to happen, loss to occur. And these two terms, whether they are fairly common in the FDI. So always remember, FDI talks about the plant and machinery. It's not talking at all about the securities market. So plant and machinery is there in foreign direct investment, so it is wrong. Process of globalization, yes, indirectly it talks about the issue price as well as the securities market globally, so it can be one of the correct answer. Then foreign institutional investment, so they are the part of a portfolio investment, and under this they trade in the secondary markets only. So correct answer will be FII. Why not process of globalization? See, whenever in a question you have multiple correct answers, always remember one thing, you have to select the most appropriate out of them, and the more appropriate out of the globalization process and the FII is FII. The last one, trade protectionist measures. So nobody will be trading in while trading your goods and services, nobody will be using the arbitrage or hedging. They are used only in the speculative markets. Fine. So the correct answer will be option C for this particular question. Okay. If you have any doubt, feel free to ask me. Fine. C is the right answer. Here again you have the point of difference between the FDI and FII, and rightly so, you will see that it uses the FII uses arbitrage and hedging variations across different parts of the world, and this is the reason why we were saying that globalization process is also involved. But always remember, you have to select the most appropriate answer. What is the definition of globalization? You are providing a network to various countries to integrate their economy. That is the basic definition of globalization. So directly though you can say that yes, globalization process is also happening here in the arbitrage and hedging. They are a party to the globalization process, but what is the most appropriate one? Focus on that. FII directly talks about the processes of arbitrage and hedging. And one more thing, one more important point when we talk about FII is the term which is hot money. So always remember, FII is also called as the hot money. Why hot money? Because the investors who are having the FII portfolios with them, they only think about profit, and they will be moving very quickly across the global markets. That is the reason why arbitrage is mentioned here, that they will buy from a lower priced market and sell at a higher priced market. So that is the reason the capital flight is a word associated with FII as well as the hot money as well. Okay. So these 2 or 3 terms you must remember. Question in May 2025 was directly from this topic, that FII is also known as what? So hot money was the right answer. Fine. Last question, let's see, based on the FDI only, that under defense manufacturing, which of the following activity is permitted for 74% through automatic route? So in the defense manufacturing, you have 2 types of bifurcation when we talk about the FDI limits. So what are these 2 types of bifurcation? First is defense industrial licensing, right? Defense manufacturing, industrial licensing. The next one is MT, that is your modern technology. So access to modern technology. These 2 you can say bifurcations are there when we talk about the FDI limits in defense manufacturing. So when there is a reference to DIL, always remember it is applicable as 74% FDI limit, and that too under the automatic route. But when I talk about the modern technology, here the FDI limits is 100%, but only for the modern technology under the government route. Okay. So the question states 74% through automatic route. So whether it is the industrial licensing, modern technology, missile manufacturing, or none of the above, which of the following will be the right answer? The correct answer for this question will be option A, that is industrial license. Fine. Here you can see for yourself that defense manufacturing 100% FDI limit is there, but there is bifurcation. 74%, if the FDI limit is up to 74%, then automatic route is there for the DIL, defense industrial license, and up to 100% via the government route when we talk about the access to modern technology. Okay. So this was it for today's session. I hope that you learned something new, you learned some new concepts. And when we talk about the offerings from Officers Adda 247, what are the offerings right now as of today? So we are running huge discounts on our increment batches, be it the JAIIB increment or CAIIB increment packs. Do explore them on our website, and if you find any kind of difficulty in the paid classes or you want the core information for our paid classes, you can directly contact us on this number, that is 0981 981 9247. This is our number, dedicated helpline for all our bankers so that they can directly contact us. Okay. So this was it for today's class. We'll meet in the